Okay, so okay, so let's get into this and let's figure this out once and for all. Was Nabeel Qureshi cursed for lying about leaving Islam and becoming a evangelical Christian? Now let's I'm going to dive into the whole thing and why I think it's reasonable to say that Nabeel Qureshi suffered the curse of God on him by his extreme bad luck with this stomach cancer diagnosis back in 2016, and he died in 2017. So let's get into it. Now, Nabeel Qureshi, now the reason why, I've looked at the evidence, right? I've done some research on stomach cancer and cancer in general, etc., etc. And from my research, I found that people like Nabeel Qureshi don't usually get cancer that quickly in life. Nabeel Qureshi had stomach cancer, and stomach cancer usually I don't believe that stomach cancer comes like within somebody's 30s. I think it takes more time for that to develop. And so Nabeel Qureshi is let's take a few years back and let's see, because stomach cancer, or wait, no, before the stomach cancer diagnosis, let's get in there. Let's get into that. Before the stomach cancer diagnosis, Nabeel Qureshi was on top of the world. He was a rock star. He was in like of rock star status uh, when it came to Christian apologetics. He had books. He wrote two books, I believe three books. Someone can correct me in the comments below, but he wrote some books. He was debating big time. He was debating, people like Shabir Ali, one of the top Muslim debaters and apologists out there, and he was on top of the world. Nabeel Qureshi. He was writing books, giving debates, giving lectures in various evangelical churches, etc., etc. So Nabeel Qureshi was on top of the world. He was writing books. He was giving lectures. He was doing debates. He was literally he was part of the Ravi Zacharias team. So like the Nabeel Qureshi was world famous. Every evangelical Christian around the world knew of Nabeel Qureshi. He was all over the place. So you couldn't go to evangelical church without them knowing who Nabeel Qureshi was. So this guy was famous, and he was speaking all across America. He was speaking in Texas, he was speaking in Virginia, he was speaking in California. He was speaking in churches all over the place. So, Nabeel Qureshi was a big time Christian apologist. Now, he was also healthy as a horse, because I used to have Nabeel Qureshi as a Facebook friend, and from all the pictures that he was posting on his Facebook, he was posting pictures of him and David Wood going out having steak dinners and all this kind of doing all these eating at some fancy 5-star restaurants, etc., etc. So Nabeel Qureshi was on top of the world, right? He had a girlfriend, and eventually he would marry her. Her name was Michelle Qureshi, I believe. He eventually got a daughter before the cancer diagnosis, and he was making a lot of money. He was selling a lot of books. He was invited to various churches around the world, I believe, or at least across America. So he was on top of the world, and Nabeel Qureshi was as healthy as a horse. I think everybody who knew Nabeel Qureshi before 2016 will agree that Nabeel Qureshi was active. He was walking around, he was running around, he was eating as much steak as possible, because I think his favorite food was steak, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was just on top of the world. Now, this 2016 is where he announced out of nowhere that he had early stages of stomach cancer. Now, my question is, what kind of a healthy person who's doing debates, who's giving lecture circuits, who's giving lectures across churches, who's traveling around the world, who's writing books, who's debating, speaking, making, giving interviews on Christian, TV channels? What kind of person is that? That's a healthy person. So in 2016, the fun ended for Nabeel Qureshi because he was diagnosed with advanced stages of stomach cancer, I believe. So he was diagnosed with, stage 4 stomach cancer back in 2016. And stage 4 stomach cancer, from my research, is indicates that the cancer has spread to other parts of the body, including the organs like the liver, lungs, or brain. So stage 4 stomach cancer is the cancer spread to other parts of the body. And that means that's a very, the life expectancy of someone with stage 4 stomach cancer is, a year. Like they can survive a year, after that diagnosis. So what kind of a person gets stage 4 stomach cancer literally out of nowhere? Out of nowhere. He was on top of the world in 2015, writing, speaking, traveling, writing books, debating non-Christians, giving lectures across America, giving lectures in evangelical churches, giving interviews in various Christian TV channels or Christian YouTube channels. All of a sudden, and joining, the big time Ravi Zacharias team before Ravi Zacharias was exposed. So, what kind of a person gets cancer literally out of nowhere? When they're busy and they're traveling the world and writing and speaking and writing books and speaking in various platforms. Like, this is proof that the cancer came out of nowhere. And this is possibly because of the lies Nabeel Qureshi told. Nabeel Qureshi was telling lies about himself when in reality he was an Ahmadi Muslim, but he was pretending to be an Orthodox Muslim leaving Islam. And he was pretending to, be a Orthodox Muslim. He was pretending, or he was telling all kinds of lies about Islam, and he was telling all kinds of propaganda for Christianity, coming up with trying to build a name for himself in the evangelicals, even in the evangelical circles. So all of a sudden that stopped when the stage 4 cancer came. So is this divine retribution of God? What kind of a person who's healthy as a horse suddenly gets cancer out of nowhere? So let's look at some facts here. Nabeel Qureshi obviously upsetted his parents when he left Ahmadi Islam and became an evangelical Christian, a Protestant evangelical Christian, I believe. Now, if Nabeel Qureshi was following, I think he was an evangelical Christian. That's what I think, doing some research about him. So he left Ahmadi Islam and he became an evangelical Christian. So Nabeel Qureshi upset his parents. In Islam, that's considered a big problem or a sin. So Nabeel Qureshi upsetting his parents was a big issue. The second, so that could be one of the reasons why Nabeel Qureshi was struck with this random stomach cancer out of nowhere. The second thing we need to consider is that Nabeel Qureshi was very famous. He was world famous, speaking against Islam and speaking for Christianity, copying people like Michael Licona and other, or copying these well-known Christian apologists. Like Nabeel Qureshi's arguments were plagiarized, or a lot of his arguments came from Mike Licona and other Trinitarian Christians. Like he was citing Daniel Wallace in some of his debates, in some of his lectures. He was citing these evangelical Christians like William Lane Craig. So, Nabeel Qureshi did not have much unique material for Christianity. A lot of his material can be found in the writings of William Lane Craig, Michael Licona and other Christian apologists like Daniel Wallace, etc. So Nabeel Qureshi was using the same arguments that these Christian apologists make. But I'm getting besides the issue. The issue was that Nabeel Qureshi was world famous spreading propaganda against Islam and propaganda for Christianity, copying decades old Christian apologist material that has already been. But regardless, Nabeel Qureshi's points for the divinity of Jesus and the resurrection and all that, those were all weak points. All of his points were weak anyways. I don't think any Muslim found Nabeel Qureshi's arguments persuasive in favor of Jesus' divinity or Jesus' resurrection. I think there was I don't know. I wasn't convinced of Nabeel Qureshi's arguments for the divinity of Jesus, because all you got to do is, like, if you read like Biblical Unitarian, they already give New Testament verses that refute the so-called divinity of Jesus. But anyways, Nabeel Qureshi was world famous at the time of his stomach cancer diagnosis in the 2010s. In 2016, the fun, of course, ended because Nabeel Qureshi was cursed with stomach cancer. So the second point I want to make is that Nabeel Qureshi was world famous. So it's possible that God struck Nabeel Qureshi down with this deadly diagnosis of stage 4 stomach cancer to slow Nabeel Qureshi down in spreading lies and hate, or lies against Islam, not necessarily hate, but lies against Islam. So when Nabeel Qureshi was on top of the world, boom, he's struck with stomach cancer. So that's further indication for me that this stomach cancer was not random. There had to be some kind of, I don't know, supernatural cause for that cancer, because Nabeel Qureshi was having a jolly old time. He was having a good old time before the cancer. He was world famous. He had many friends. He was eating steak dinner, and he was eating, he was eating in 5-star restaurants, eating steak dinners, drinking as much beer and wine as he could as a Christian, because Christians don't care about that stuff. And Christians don't care if they're drinking or not. So Nabeel Qureshi was having a good old time being a evangelical Christian in America. So, he was world famous, debating various non-Christian theists, etc., etc. So the third part, so Nabeel Qureshi was very famous. That could be a reason why, God supernaturally induced Nabeel Qureshi with stomach cancer, because he was world famous and world renowned. People or at least evangelical Christians around the world knew of him and knew about his debates and works, etc. The third point is that Nabeel Qureshi obviously had some kind of an arrogant streak in him. And I know this because there was a time when I asked Nabeel Qureshi a question, and he didn't even bother to answer what I was. He didn't bother to answer what I was asking. And and then one time I messaged him on Facebook, and he gave me a very mean-spirited answer. So Nabeel Qureshi obviously was not he wasn't. He needed to humble himself a little bit. He's a little bit too full of himself, when he got more famous as time went on. And as time went on, I don't know. Either I think I defriended him or something on Facebook, because he just was not showing a good attitude towards Islam, and he was kind of, I don't know, he was kind of too full of himself. He was too proud, etc. Then the other point, the fifth point I want to bring up is that Nabeel Qureshi was obviously I don't know, like, he was causing drama, and he was purposely causing drama. And we know this by the 2010 Arab Festival, where him and David were causing commotion, or they were causing drama at the Arab Fest, and they were arrested for disturbing the peace or something. So they were rightly arrested for causing unnecessary drama on the streets of Dearborn. So when these two, David Wood and Nabeel Qureshi, were arrested, they were put in jail, and they made a big deal out of the drama that they caused in Dearborn, saying Sharia wasn't Dearborn, when in reality, if these two were in L.A. causing some kind of disturbance of peace, like if these two were in Los Angeles doing the same antics they were doing in Michigan, they would have been arrested in Los Angeles or L.A. Because they're disturbing the peace in Los Angeles. If these two were in Miami, Texas, New York, I don't know, or Washington D.C., anywhere else in the USA, shoving video cameras in people's faces and trying to cause drama to get attention for themselves. These two being the attention whores that they are. David Wood, we all know David Wood's an attention whore. We all know that. They would have been arrested anywhere in America. It doesn't matter if it's in Texas, Michigan, New York, Florida, California, Washington D.C. Doesn't matter. In Mexico, like wherever these guys, if these guys are causing problems or causing unnecessary trouble or drama on the street, of course these two are going to get arrested for causing unnecessary drama or causing unnecessary problems on the streets. Of course, it doesn't matter where they are, whether they're in America, Mexico, Canada, they're going to get arrested for disturbing the peace. So my point is that Nabeel Qureshi was a big drama queen and a big attention seeker like his master David Wood, and he was causing unnecessary problems, or he was causing unnecessary drama on the streets or on the internet about trying to defame Islam or trying to make Islam look bad. So that's another reason why he was probably cursed with stomach cancer, because this person was a troublemaker, and he was a drama queen causing unnecessary drama. So God probably struck Nabeel Qureshi with stomach cancer in order to shut him down, because this man was causing unnecessary problems. So was Nabeel Qureshi cursed? Well, let's look at the facts. The fact is that Nabeel Qureshi was healthy as a horse and was super annoying, just like Sam Shamoon is annoying, back in the peak the peak of his career, which was the late 2000s and early to mid 2010s. So Nabeel Qureshi was world famous, etc., and was super annoying in evangelical circles, trying to propagate Christianity over Islam, selling himself as an ex-Muslim. Because, I think what Nabeel Qureshi wanted to do was he wanted to pull a Bart Ehrman. The Bart Ehrman is somebody who was brought up in some kind of religious tradition, what I call the Bart Ehrman. The Bart Ehrman is somebody who was brought up in a religious tradition, leaves that religious tradition, either becomes an atheist or converts to some other religion, and says they're an expert on their former faith. So as Bart Ehrman is an expert on Christianity, being a once fundamentalist evangelical Christian, Nabeel Qureshi was trying to market himself as that, a former devout Muslim who left Islam in favor of Christianity. So he was trying to pull that Bart Ehrman card with his book Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus. He was trying to market himself as an expert by once adhering to the faith and then leaving that faith for Christianity. The other point is that then the question really arises, like, what person gets stomach cancer out of nowhere? What person gets stomach cancer when they're healthy as a horse, riding, debating, traveling, trying to get a PhD, etc. So this stomach cancer came out of nowhere because Nabeel Qureshi was very active. So that's the first clue that Nabeel Qureshi was cursed, because there was no prior signs of any kind of illness in Nabeel Qureshi. There was no signs of weakness. There was no signs of stomach issues. There was no signs of pain or any kind of weakness or any kind of sickness in Nabeel Qureshi prior to the 2016 announcement. So that struck me as odd that Nabeel Qureshi was healthy as a horse, and boom, all of a sudden he gets stomach cancer. In the middle of him being in Oxford University trying to get that PhD in. I think he was getting PhD in New Testament studies or something of that nature. But and then of course Nabeel Qureshi, I don't know, like the cancer killed him pretty quickly because he was diagnosed in 2016 with stage 4 stomach cancer, and then 2017. In September 2017, he died. He passed away of stomach cancer. So the cancer was very quick in killing him. So that's the second clue that Nabeel Qureshi indeed was cursed, because the cancer immediately killed him. Or it almost immediately killed him. Nabeel Qureshi survived for, I believe, I want to say 12 months or something like that. So Nabeel Qureshi survived for I want to say a year, 12 months, or a little over a year after the initial diagnosis, because Nabeel Qureshi announced on his Facebook in 2016 that he had cancer in August 2016, I believe, August or September. I believe in August 2016, Nabeel Qureshi announced that he had cancer. Then he was, making videos about, he was making vlogs or video diaries of his journey with cancer, or his daily routines, or his month by month his month to month interactions with cancer. He was making vlogs about his journey with cancer. Then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse for him, because the last few videos where, if you watch his vlog, if you watch the second to last vlog of his, he says that doctors have given up trying to cure him or trying to treat him, and he was given palliative care. That means he was just made comfortable, and that means that he was going to die no matter what, because when someone's in hospice or a palliative care in the healthcare system, that means that they're pretty much done. There's doctors have given up trying to treat them. So, and then Nabeel Qureshi was praying to Jesus to cure him. So the question really arises, like I said on my community post, why wouldn't God heal Nabeel? If Christianity was true, why didn't God heal Nabeel Qureshi? Like, Nabeel Qureshi was world famous. So if the Christian God really was listening, or if the Christian God is the true theistic God we should all be worshiping, why didn't the Christian God, Jesus or God the Father, or both of them, I guess, why didn't they heal Nabeel Qureshi right then and there? Like, people all around, Christians all around the world were praying for Nabeel Qureshi to be healed from his stomach cancer, and the cancer just kept getting worse and worse and worse until he passed away in 2017. So then the question really arises, why didn't the Christian God, if the Christian God is the true God that we should all be worshiping, why didn't the Christian God heal Nabeel Qureshi right then and there? It would have been a miracle for all the world to see if Nabeel Qureshi's cancer got better and better, and he was able to get up and walk away from the cancer, or he could have been in remission or something like that for the cancer. So why didn't the God of the God of the Bible heal Nabeel Qureshi? You see, so that's another clue that this was a curse by God to Nabeel Qureshi, because when Christians were all around the world were praying for him, he wasn't healed. But but not only was he not healed, but his cancer was progressing more and more quickly, and he was getting worse. Like, he was getting more and more sick, and his cancer was getting worse or spreading to the rest of his body, and that meant that Nabeel Qureshi's death was imminent because the cancer was spreading. the cancer within him was spreading, and he wasn't in remission, or the cancer wasn't dying. It was actually spreading in his body. So the cancer was quickly destroying him. So that's further indication that this was possibly a curse. Now, I don't have the answers, right? I don't know. Like, I don't have the answers here. Was Nabeel Qureshi definitely cursed by God? I don't know. Like, how could a mere human being like me know what God's plan for Nabeel Qureshi was? How do I know that? This is just, the evidence, but this is just my 2 cents that it looks, the evidence we saw of how the cancer quickly got in Nabeel Qureshi and quickly got worse, and how the prayers, people praying for Nabeel Qureshi, wasn't working. This is all proof or pieces of evidence that Nabeel Qureshi was possibly supernaturally cursed by God for spreading lies against Islam and for Christianity, and God struck him down and he was quickly killed for propagating lies. So was Nabeel Qureshi cursed? The evidence says yes. That's just my